Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something, well, pretty surprising happening in the U.S. beverage market.
Mm.
It's the really fast rise of THC-infused drinks. And we're asking, could they actually challenge alcohol? Its long reign.
That's a fascinating question. I mean, alcohol's been the go-to for so long, America's most widely used drug, really.
Right.
But cannabis is definitely making inroads, especially in this uh, liquid form we're seeing now.
Exactly. And just to be clear, when we say cannabis, we're mainly talking about two compounds people hear about most.
THC and CBD.
Right. THC, that's tetrahydrocannabinol. That's the one that gives you the buzz, the psychoactive effect.
And then there's CBD, cannabidiol, no high from that one, but it's known for other things, wellness properties and such.
And the way people are consuming these as well, it's really changing. Get this.
It's quite a statistic, isn't it?
Yeah, for the first time in, over 40 years, daily cannabis use has actually overtaken daily alcohol drinking in the U.S.
That's a huge shift. Really says something about changing habits.
It really does. And, okay, this is where it gets super interesting for our deep dive today. The beverage industry has noticed. Big time.
Oh, absolutely. There's an explosion of these THC drinks.
And the numbers are already turning heads. I read that in some places, these drinks make up something like 15% of total sales already.
That's right. In certain retail markets, yeah. Pretty
Yep.
significant slice pretty quickly.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Our mission today,
Yeah.
figure out why these THC beverages are suddenly so popular and, do they really have a shot at disrupting the massive alcohol industry?
Good question. So where do we start? Why the sudden boom? What's behind it?
Well, a lot seems to point towards changing tastes, especially with younger people.
Mm-hmm. The health and wellness trend.
Exactly. Big focus on wellness, looking for alcohol alternatives that, crucially, don't leave you feeling awful the next day.
The hangover avoidance factor. That's definitely a motivator for some.
I mean, who hasn't felt that grogginess, right? The idea of getting a buzz without that downside. It sounds appealing, at least on the surface.
And they're often positioned that way, aren't they? Like social tonics?
Yeah, that's the term I've seen.
Offering a sort of milder buzz, a way to relax, be social, but maybe without the intensity or the regrets you sometimes get with alcohol.
Suggests the cannabis market is kind of growing up, maybe? People wanting ways to consume that fit more easily into social life, less stigma than, say, smoking.
Totally. And
Yeah.
the format helps there, too.
For sure. You see them as like fruity seltzers, zero-calorie options, carbonated waters. Fits right in with what people are already drinking.
Right, it aligns with those other beverage trends.
Plus, there's this interesting smoker-to-sipper thing happening.
Yeah. Longtime users switching.
Seems like it. People looking for a maybe cleaner way. More discreet, certainly. No smoke, no smell.
That makes a lot of sense. Easier on the lungs, easier to consume subtly in public or social settings. It's a different experience.
And this shift, this preference change, you can really see it in the market numbers.
So the growth is quite something.
Understatement, right. Just a couple of years back, the THC seltzer market globally was, around $340 million?
Yeah, something like that.
Now, forecasts are heading towards nearly $2 billion by 2030.
That's explosive growth, not just steady climbing.
But, okay, this kind of growth doesn't just happen in a vacuum, especially with cannabis involved. There's a legal angle here, right? The Farm Bill.
Yes. The 2018 Farm Bill. Absolutely critical piece of the puzzle.
Okay, refresh my memory. How did that agriculture bill end up boosting THC drinks?
Well, the key thing the Farm Bill did was federally legalize hemp and hemp-derived products.
Right, hemp, not marijuana.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it defined hemp as cannabis containing less than 0.3% THC by dry weight. That last part is crucial.
By dry weight. Okay, how does that apply to a drink?
Well, think about it. The limit applies to the plant material itself.
Yeah.
A large amount of dried hemp might meet that under 0.3% rule when you extract the THC from all that material.
You can end up with a fair amount of THC to put into something else, like a beverage, even if the original plant source was compliant.
Precisely. The concentration in the final drink isn't limited by that 0.3% dry weight rule in the same way. It created a loophole.
Okay, wow. So companies use THC from legal hemp, put it in drinks, and because the source was compliant,
They could potentially sell these drinks outside the state-licensed marijuana dispensary system.
even in states where recreational or medical cannabis is still illegal.
In many cases, yes. That's why you started seeing them pop up on regular store shelves and convenience stores, online. Massive increase in accessibility.
That's a total game changer. No wonder they took off.
Exactly. Wider availability means more people trying them, driving that market growth we talked about.
So with all that momentum, back to the big question. Can these drinks actually start displacing alcohol? Really make a dent?
We are seeing some, let's call them early indicators, little hints.
Wait, what?
Well, there have been reports suggesting maybe a 5% dip in beer and wine sales since about 2023.
Okay, that's noticeable.
And at the same time, you see growth in non-alcoholic drinks, functional beverages, and yes, these THC options are part of that mix.
So some money seems to be shifting.
It does suggest some consumers are making different choices, but we need to be careful not to overstate it just yet.
Right. There are hurdles. You mentioned regulatory ones.
Big ones. Because that 0.3% rule we discussed, that applies to the raw hemp.
Not the finished drinks. So there's no federal limit on how much THC can be in a can of seltzer.
Currently, no. Not a specific federal limit for the beverage itself derived from hemp. That's the gap.
Which explains why you see such variation on the shelves.
Exactly. You can find seltzers with maybe 5 or 10 milligrams of THC, but then you also see some with 30 milligrams, even little shots packing 100 milligrams.
Wow, 100 milligrams, a lot, especially for someone new to it. That sounds risky.
It can be. And this lack of federal standard creates a problem. While they might be federally compliant because of the hemp source,
They could clash with state rules, right? Many legal cannabis states have limits on THC per serving in edibles or drinks sold in dispensaries.
precisely. States like Colorado have, say, a 10 milligram per serving limit for edibles. These hemp-derived drinks often operate outside that specific framework,
So it's kind of a gray area.
a very gray area, and unstable. States could decide to crack down on these higher-dose hemp products at any time.
Right. They could impose their own limits, which could just completely disrupt the market for these drinks. Brands might have to change everything or leave the state.
It makes it very tricky, very risky for businesses trying to scale nationally. That regulatory patchwork is a huge challenge.
Okay, what about the health angle? That perception that these are healthier than alcohol, that seems like a big selling point.
It's definitely part of the appeal. And maybe sipping a seltzer feels cleaner than smoking, or it has fewer calories than some beers or cocktails.
Sure.
But we need a balanced view here. THC is still THC. It has potential health risks, regardless of how you consume it.
And it's still relatively new in this drink format, so maybe people don't fully understand dosing or effects yet.
That's a real concern. Lack of public education around responsible use, appropriate dosage, potential interactions.
Like mixing them with alcohol. That sounds like a bad idea.
It really can be. Combining THC and alcohol can amplify the effects of both, sometimes unpredictably, often not in a good way. And there's also the factor of how your body absorbs it. Edibles and drinkables can be tricky. Some evidence suggests the effects might hit harder or faster if you consume them after eating.
Okay, so the healthier image isn't quite so simple.
Not really, no. Need to be cautious there.
What about just plain old cost? That's always a factor.
Oh, absolutely. Cost is a big one. A 6-pack of some of these THC seltzers can easily run you $30, maybe more.
$30. Wow. Compared to a 6-pack of beer.
Which might be, what, $5, $6, $7 on average? Maybe a bit more for craft. But still, it's a huge price difference.
Yeah, like 5 or 6 times the price.
That's a significant barrier for a lot of consumers, even if they're curious to try them. It positions them as more of a premium occasional purchase for many, perhaps.
So yeah, quite a few bumps in the road if these drinks really want to challenge alcohol's dominance. Regulations, health perceptions, cost.
Definitely. But what's also fascinating is watching how the alcohol industry itself is reacting.
Right. They're not just sitting back, are they?
Not at all. Many of the big players are getting involved, investing in cannabis companies, launching their own cannabis beverage lines.
I remember hearing about Constellation Brands, the Corona folks, putting a huge amount into canopy growth.
Billions. A multi-billion-dollar investment. That's a major signal.
It's like they're hedging their bets, isn't it? Making sure they have a piece of the action if cannabis laws keep loosening.
Exactly that. It's a safety net. They have the money, the distribution, the marketing power. If the regulatory landscape shifts dramatically in favor of THC beverages,
They're ready to pivot or integrate.
they'll be well-positioned, potentially much more so than smaller, independent cannabis brands that don't have those deep pockets or established networks.
So it really feels like the future here hinges almost entirely on regulation, doesn't it? What lawmakers decide to do state by state and federally.
That really is the crux of it, I think. Until we get more clarity, more consistency in the rules.
All the buzz, all the growth we're seeing now, it doesn't automatically mean they'll dethrone alcohol.
Not necessarily. The potential is there, the consumer interest seems to be there, but those challenges, regulation, perception, cost, they're still very significant.
Okay, so let's quickly recap this deep dive then. THC drinks, definitely surging in popularity.
Yep. Driven by people wanting alcohol alternatives, wellness trends, and that very interesting Farm Bill loophole.
But they face some serious headwinds. A messy, uncertain regulatory picture.
Questions around the healthier image, potential risks.
And that pretty hefty price tag compared to traditional drinks.
So while the excitement is undeniable, you can feel the buzz around these beverages.
It's still very much an open question whether they can truly knock alcohol off its perch as America's favorite social drink.
Absolutely. Fascinating uncertainty there.
Which brings us to our final thought, something for you to chew on. When you look at these trends, the wellness focus, the legal shifts, big alcohol companies placing their bets, what do you think the beverage aisle might actually look like in, say, 10 years?
Yeah, and what other things? What unforeseen factors? Maybe economic shifts, maybe new scientific findings, maybe some big cultural moment could pop up and completely change the game.
Lots to think about. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.